I have such a stomach ache. We better put a big trigger warning on this episode, like in
Yeah.
a massive way.
Yes. Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
This is the behavior robot. This is a trigger warning. Before we begin, a quick note. We are discussing the Idaho College murders today, which involves heavy conversations regarding violence and crime scene details. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's Liat. Welcome back to Behavior Bitches Podcast. You guys let us know that you loved a specific podcast we did before. So we listened to you and we brought the guest back. This is very exciting. And for all my true crime lovers, you're welcome. Today on the show, if you guys remember Presley Warner, she is a BCBA from Fargo, North Dakota. Prior to her training in behavior analysis, she received her master's degree in forensic psych. Her areas of special interest include psychopathy, sex offenses, and criminal justice reform. Presley has also received formal education in behavioral crime analysis and behavioral threat assessment and management. When not working, she enjoys watching true crime and horror with her cats. I remember last time, was it Jezebel?
Yep.
Jezebel or Jezebel?
Jezebel.
Yeah, I was going to say LOL. Jezebel and Lilith.
Lilith.
Lilith. Okay, you're giving me so many complicated things today.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, biblical. Okay.
Yes.
But maybe if you said them in Hebrew, I might know them more.
I don't know the Hebrew.
Okay, I love it. Great. So thank God Martha's here and she's got the biblical side. All right, before we get into anything too dark, I like to keep it light. And I'm going to start off. We started a new segment since you were on last. And what it is the guest before you will ask a question to the following guest. Okay. So it could be anything. So you're also going to be asking a question as well to whoever we have on next. So you could be thinking of that. But in the meantime, this one was from Alan Stein Jr. What truth about success do you deeply believe, but find most people either dismiss or aren't ready to hear?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was like a real winner. This is going to be a hard one.
Oh gosh. That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like everyone kind of knows that, you have to put in hard work, all of those things to be successful. Sometimes it's going to involve doing things that you don't want to do, doing things that you don't like to do. But perseverance, I don't know.
No, that's true. You either dismiss.
I feel like that's not something that people dismiss, though. It's kind of something people understand. So I wasn't expecting such a deep
that was hard
question.
Do we have nothing else?
No, we forgot to get a question from our last guest.
We did?
After asking. So we're out. That's the only one we have.
Damn. Like literally, this is a guy who like trained Kobe Bryant and like major like success, whatever. So like, sorry.
Oh,
but that's okay.
Yeah,
I got some questions for you that are a little easier. Okay, so
yes, let me hear it.
What was your last ChatGPT prompt?
Oh gosh. To be honest, I think it was write me a social story for an 8-year-old boy with autism about pooping on the toilet.
Oh, it's great for writing stories, actually. It's amazing.
Excellent for social stories. That's what I use.
Crazy, yeah. I love it. Okay. Next. What was your most recent listened to podcast?
I don't listen to podcasts. I will watch podcasts if they have like a visual, but with my executive dysfunction, I have a hard time just listening to something. I need a visual to kind of anchor me.
Okay, so if the podcast was on YouTube, that's fine. You could watch us there too, but slide in for anyone else wondering. But did you watch anything? Fine. It could be documentary.
What's the most recent? I watch a lot of That Chapter on YouTube. Different episodes cover different cases. That Chapter, Iwu, Explore with Us. That's a favorite. The Misery Machine. That's a
What are they
favorite.
about? Just
They're all true crime. So the Misery Machine specifically covers cases involving children. That Chapter covers basically anything. So does Iwu. Iwu has a lot of interrogation footage included in their documentaries, which I really like. I think that's fun.
interrogation is interesting, like the tactics and things like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
As like a behaviorist to look at.
Oh, absolutely.
And I guess that invites me to tell you my most recent podcast, which I sent out to the team this morning. There's this podcast. Every topic is more interesting than the next. I'm definitely not getting like really educated from it, but it's called Other People's Lives. And the
Okay.
one I listened to last night, the newest one, is I Have a Micro Penis.
Oh, interesting.
So then I like went on like a whole rabbit hole of like Googling micro penises.
Uh-huh.
And then I sent them into like the company's thread this morning. And they're like, what? And I was like, maybe we should do this topic.
Let's talk about micro penises.
No, but it's actually, it like made me like kind of sad. Like the guy was really cool guy, but like it like made it impossible to have sex. But anyways, sad. On to
Yeah.
new things. Let's get
Interesting, though.
into the interview because we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do. We
And
have a
today,
lengthy
as you
PowerPoint.
mentioned, is the day that we are recording this for anyone listening is the 3-year anniversary from when the crime that we're about to talk about took place. If anyone is familiar with the Idaho murders, and what do you want to say about this before we get started? I know you had a little bit of a disclaimer.
Yes, so I have a disclaimer slide as well. But one of the main things that I want to mention is that so with BTAM, specifically Behavioral Threat Assessment and Management, most professionals will not use the name of the perpetrator in order to not give them that notoriety, right? We will be talking about Bryan Kohberger. We will be analyzing his behavior with the intent of identifying areas where we can intervene prior to atrocious attacks like this so we can prevent them. The families specifically have stated, they wish that he is not studied. There's no documentaries, things like that. But I do think from a scientific perspective, understanding the behavior that led to the attack is important.
And those precursors that we could potentially be aware of.
Exactly. Yes.
And with that, so we really are doing it for educational purposes. Hopefully, like if, things that you might want to look out for. But my question is, so let's say like I watch a lot of true crime stuff. Let's say I do see some of these like similarities in someone. What is the appropriate route to go when something like this is happening? Like, or like that you're like, I'm a little concerned. This guy seems creepy. Like, what does one do?
So that's a very good question. Some areas will have what are called threat assessment and management teams. I serve on my local threat assessment and management team. In that case, I am able to bring that to the team and say, I am seeing someone who is exhibiting some concerning behavior. Maybe it's things that they have said. Maybe it's stalking or following someone. Maybe it's concerning statements about politics or religion. right? Ideally, you will be able to bring that to a professional. If it is concerning to the point where you feel that maybe physical harm may come, um, the police. Go to the police. It is better to report something and have nothing happen than to not report it and have someone die.
Okay, that's a good answer there. One other thing that you had added in the disclaimer before this episode really gets into anything. I know that you mentioned that the opinions here are based on documents that you have reviewed.
Yes,
And obviously you don't have access to all the documents.
correct. I did submit a handful of FOIA requests. Some of them I did get files sent to me. I have gone through hundreds, hundreds of documents, police reports, search warrants, just tons of
You
stuff.
could put in a request to see that stuff?
Yes. So through the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, you can submit requests to basically any governmental agency. You can do a FOIA request for the Department of Agriculture if you wanted, and you'll request a certain. If you're doing it for true crime cases, you'll request a specific case, and then they'll send you, if they're able to, if the case is closed, they will send you whatever they have. I submitted a FOIA request to, I can't remember if it was the FBI who turned it, I think it was the FBI. They were not able to send me any documents, but I did get documents from Leda County, Idaho, which is where Moscow is, as well as the Pullman, Washington Police Department sent me some documents as well. So that is something you could do. Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, so for anyone who's never heard of this case, can you give us a quick overview of what happened in Moscow? Is that how you say it?
Moscow.
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 I know. In the
Yeah,
show, I kept
I
being like,
believe.
oh, it's like Russia. Moscow, Idaho in November 2022.
Yes. So, Moscow, Idaho, at 1122 King Road, um, which is a college area. 1122 King Road, there were five residents: Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, Bethany Frankie, and Dylan. I can't remember Dylan's last name. Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Xana's boyfriend Ethan were murdered around 4 a.m. the morning of November 13th of 2022. Very brutally murdered. I remember when it happened, there were images circulating of the house, and there was blood dripping down the foundation from the outside. So it was a very brutal murder.
From the
A
outside,
four-body
even though it
murder.
happened inside?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Very brutal.
And it was stabbings, right?
Yes. All four victims had sharp force injuries. Kaylee also had asphyxiation and blunt force injuries.
What's asphyxiation?
Strangulation.
All right. So who these victims, they were a bunch of friends, right? Like it seems like maybe they were
Yes.
in the same sorority.
Yes, they were. So Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan, they had been friends since middle school. They decided to go off to college together. They were in the same sorority. They lived together. Xana Kernodle, she was also a member of the same sorority. And Bethany and Dylan, the other two roommates, also were sorority members.
Right. Wow. And how were the victims discovered?
So,
And then we're going to get into like how this happened, whatever it is. But I just want
yes,
people to have like the breakdown of like what we're talking about before we get into it.
yes. So, in the early morning hours of November 13th, all of the girls had been out drinking, partying the night before. They had come home. Um, so, the house was a 3-level house. So, in the basement was Bethany's room. The next level was Dylan and Xana. And then the top level was Maddie and Kaylee. And Dylan had heard odd sounds throughout the night. She heard some crying at one point. She heard a male voice at one point. She repeatedly opened her door to listen and to look, and she did not hear anything, so she shut the door.
Wait, she was on the bottom?
Dylan was on the second floor.
Okay. I actually saw the diagram. I watched the Amazon or Netflix one yesterday.
Yes. Yes, that was a very
okay.
good one. And Dylan, the third time she opened her door, she was faced with a masked man in all black who made eye contact with her and walked out of the sliding door in the kitchen. Dylan then slammed her door and texted Bethany, who was downstairs. She said she thought she saw someone, but they both had been drinking. So Bethany suggested, maybe you're still drunk, just run downstairs, come down to my room. So Dylan runs downstairs to Bethany's room, where they end up falling asleep. Around 11 a.m. the next morning.
After she had seen the masked guy?
Correct. At around 11 a.m. the next morning, they woke up. Both Bethany and Dylan had repeatedly tried calling Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana, and no one answered. 11 a.m. comes, they still are not answering. So they call friends from across the street. And this is Emily Allent and her boyfriend, Hunter Johnson. And they come over to the house, and Hunter Johnson enters first. He then goes into the home. He takes a knife for his protection because the girls had told him they thought someone had been in the house. He goes upstairs and he sees Xana's body on the floor. He just a great human being. He shielded the trauma from the other girls by telling them to call 911. Someone is unconscious.
Oh, I remember hearing that.
He did not tell the girls that Xana was dead, although she very obviously had been. Xana put up an excellent fight, and so unfortunately the scene was very bloody. And so Hunter Johnson, came out. They called 911. A couple of the documentaries have that 911 phone call where you can listen to it. The girls were very distraught. Eventually, Hunter Johnson gets on the phone and tells them that Xana is not waking up. And then the police come, and that's when they find the scene.
Wow. So, just so I get that right, there was how many people who were killed in that scene?
4 were killed.
So, the 2 downstairs, Dylan and
Bethany,
they survived.
yes.
Just like crazy that he made eye contact with her.
Exactly. And I think that that tells me, and based on what we know about Kober's brain, okay, and the way it works, he has little frustration tolerance and cognitive inflexibility. And so I can see where if he had a plan in mind and something were to go wrong, he would get very flustered, very distraught. And I think that's what happened. I think he was not planning on killing 4 people, but there happened to be 4 people. And so when he saw Dylan, he was kind of like, I already killed more than I was planning on. I need to leave. There was security footage that showed his car leaving the area at an extremely high rate of speed. I'm talking about like peeling out the tires, screeching as he leaves. So he was distraught as he left.
Like, no, like trying to be a little discreet.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think about this case? I mean, obviously it's horrific, and I think a lot of us could see, like, if you see a picture of these young adults, college students together, it looks like pictures that like I had in college, like on
Mm-hmm.
nights out with friends or whatever it is. But
Exactly.
so I'm assuming that's part of it. But what do you think made this case stand out nationally compared to other homicide cases?
I think the brutality of the crime, as well as the fact that there were 4 victims in one place in a very small amount of time. Okay. Xana received a DoorDash order at 4 a.m. and his car was seen leaving the scene at 4:20. So he killed 4 people in 20 minutes, left 2 of them alive. And that's just unusual. And then you have the fact that they were 4 beautiful college kids who had so much going for them. Kaylee had just gotten a new car. She was very excited about that. Um, and it's just really sad seeing their entire lives in front of them and it was ripped away.
Right? Because I also watch a lot of, I mean, it's horrific, but I watch a lot of like Dateline and whatever it is, and it's always the
Mhm.
same storyline, like
Yep.
typically, right? A love triangle, blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and Lester Holt, right?
I
And
love Lester.
yeah, and so it's like, someone's cheating, there's an affair, whatever it is. This just kind of seems like, and as behavior analysts, we look at things like, okay, what was the antecedent? Like, there's always an
Yes.
antecedent. Like, what was,
Exactly.
and I know we're gonna get into that today, but this kind of seems like, well, like, was it one of their exes? Was it, like,
Well, and here's the thing. Police, and again, like I said, I only have access to certain documents and not the evidence that was going to be used at trial. So it is possible that they had evidence that I simply don't have access to. The police have stated that there is no connection between Koberger and the victims. They did not know each other. There was no text between them. They were not Facebook friends. They did not run in the same social circles. There is no connection between them.
they weren't like partners in the chemistry lab or anything?
No, they went to different universities. Brian Koberger was a graduate student, and the 4 were undergrad students.
At different schools. So the girls were at what school?
They were at University of Idaho, and Koberger was at Washington State University.
Studying criminology, right?
Correct. PhD student.
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey, behavior bitches, besties. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and stopping and watching all of our content on YouTube. We put a lot of effort into putting these podcasts into YouTube. That means I have to get dressed for the day, do my makeup, and actually show up when I used to come in looking completely homeless to record because no one could see my face. This being said, for us to keep doing this, we live for your subscription. So please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and like and leave us comments and love. Live for the love and keep tuning in, and you'll always know when our new episode drops. Love you, mean it. So before, because I know we're going to do an entire analysis of like, as like behavior analysts, and you put this amazing thing together. I just still want to get just some of the basics down. So I just want to know
Yes.
before, how did they even bring Brian as a potential suspect in this? I mean, considering there was like zero connection.
his car. They saw the car, is a 2000 mid 2010s white Hyundai Elantra. And they started looking in the area for that car. They found a white Hyundai Elantra around the same year in the residential parking lot at WSU in Pullman, Washington. They looked at some because I think he had a history of like a couple traffic stops. And so they were able to identify that the owner of the car was Bryan Kohberger. And they started looking into him. And as they started looking, things came up that were concerning.
Like, I'm assuming his car also, if it was that gruesome of a murder, had to have some kind of...
Nothing. There was nothing in his car.
Really?
There was no blood found on him or on any of his items anywhere. That I know of.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So they suspect him. Do they go arrest him or...
So they started they got some search warrants, right? They found that he had ordered a K-bar knife and sheath. And this was the weapon used. They know this because a K-bar knife sheath was left underneath Maddie Mogen's body. Which also means that he must have entered on the top floor and killed Maddie and Kaylee first, because that is where he first unsheathed his weapon and left it laying on the bed.
Unsheathed means, I'm sorry, can you operationally define?
Took it out of the sheath.
Is it like a sword?
It was a knife, a K-bar knife, military knife.
Oh my God. These parents hearing this, I can't even...
I just got goosebumps when you said that, because I could not imagine. And watching some of, their statements, and Kaylee's sister, when she just annihilated Kohberger in the hearing, was beautiful. But I cannot imagine their pain.
The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass.
Is that kind of careless, leaving the knife behind?
Yes. Which also tells me that he was a little flustered. He had probably planned this extensively. However, he didn't plan for things to go wrong. I also think that this was his first murder of people. A fellow TA spoke to the police because Bryan Kohberger served as a teaching assistant at Washington State University. He was a PhD student, so he was getting grant funding and working as a TA. One of his fellow TAs reported that Kohberger had wounds on his hands and face in the couple weeks prior to the murders. So it is possible that he perhaps practiced on animals or something that could have scratched him. But this was his first murder of humans. And so I don't think he knew what to expect. And so balls got dropped in the process.
What else was unique at this crime scene? Anything else?
Let's see here. One very chilling picture that I have seen, because I got a whole lot of documents, but I also got some pictures in my document requests. And on the second floor, near the kitchen, there's an image of the window from the outside, and there are 2 handprints placed on here perfectly like this. It's a very eerie photo. Um, that was a little odd. Um, Again, this may have been in court documents. Kaylee had blunt force injuries, but as far as I know, there was not a blunt force object found with blood on it. Um, it's possible that that was included in the trial evidence that I simply did not see, but that was something that people thought was odd as well.
Like
There were
you're saying
no-
bloody handprints?
Nope, just clear handprints. But it was November in Idaho, right? So it was chilly. So you could see the handprints in the frost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, there was no hair left. There was 1 fingerprint left, which was found on the button of the knife sheath, which is odd. So that tells me he was not wearing gloves when he unhooked the knife, or it's possible that that fingerprint had been there from earlier. Maybe he was practicing unsheathing and didn't use gloves, but there were no other fingerprints found. So it as far as like trace evidence goes, it was pretty clean.
Wow. Ooh.
The nature of some of the injuries were unusual as well. Ethan was found face down on Xana's bed. He had had his throat slashed, and there was blood spatter along the wall. His head was against the wall, and this is where we likely saw that blood trickling down the outside of the foundation, was because Ethan was murdered against the wall, and his blood all ran out that way. However, the back of his legs were slashed as well. Xana was found on the floor. So I wonder if the slash to Ethan's legs was not an accident in the struggle with Xana. Xana's fingers were almost completely severed because she grabbed the blade as he was attacking her. Maddie, she had it was 1 stab wound to the face, across her nose and her eye. Kaylee, however, was brutalized in such a way that even in the police reports that I've read, there was a quote. One of the officers said that when they saw Kaylee, they could not even comprehend what they were looking at, because she had been so brutalized. You could not tell what was what. And he didn't just stab Kaylee. He stabbed everyone else, but he didn't just stab Kaylee. He also choked her and beat her with a blunt object. I believe that Kaylee fought just as hard as Xana. I believe that because Dylan had also said that immediately prior to this, she had heard Kaylee upstairs playing with her dog.
Was the dog fine?
The dog was fine. The dog was found in Kaylee's room, which was across the hall from Maddie's. Kaylee and Maddie were found on Maddie's bed. Murphy was found under the desk in Kaylee's room. He was terrified. The police report said that the dog was terrified, and the dog did not have blood on him, which kind of speaks to how terrified he was, because he
Probably
did not
hiding.
Exactly. He did not go to his owner, Kaylee. Otherwise, he would have had blood on him.
I have such a stomach ache. We better put a big trigger warning on this episode, like in
Yeah.
a massive way.
Yes. Yes.
Whoa. Okay. What would you say? Or like, do we know any reason how he picked his victims? Like, was there he had a specific type? Was there like something he was after? Did he hate hot sorority girls? Like, what was it?
I have a theory. And it's a theory. um, I believe that Brian Koberger was an incel. For those that don't know, incel refers to someone who is involuntarily celibate. Um, Unfortunately, the incel movement is very hot online. And a lot of times, people who get kind of sucked into the incel movement and radicalized by it, a lot of times I see high functioning autistic boys. Brian Koberger had level 1 autism spectrum disorder. He was diagnosed, he received treatment as a child. He also was diagnosed with OCD and a developmental coordination disorder. So the treatment that he had received was more so for the developmental coordination disorder.
Like OT or something?
What's that?
Like OT or something?
Yes. Yeah. So I think that Brian is an incel. The fellow TA also told police that he had had many conversations with Brian Koberger about how he was upset that he did not have a girlfriend. He reported that Brian Koberger would use his TA position to inappropriately interact with female students. His professors, actually, I have some quotes
I
from
saw that one quote.
some of his professors. One of them stated that if we give him a PhD, we will read about him in the news for stalking or killing someone. So he had concerning interactions with females at WSU. We know based on the review of his phone after he was arrested, he did not have friends. He had no texts to anyone that could be considered a friend. He had 18 contacts only, and his text messages were to mother and father. It was very Norman Bates, super Norman
Did
Bates.
he call them mother and father in his phone?
Yes. Yeah. He referred to them as mother and father. Very socially isolated, upset that he did not have a girlfriend. Koberger, when he was younger, he had been bullied for his weight. He was kind of a bigger guy. He, at some point, got into working out. He also got into heroin, which probably helped the weight loss a little bit. But he lost a lot of weight.
And for anyone studying or BCBAs listening, these are all setting events, right? We're like looking at these ahead of time. Like these are all some information to know that like nothing happens in a vacuum. So this just kind of helps us understand a bigger picture. Okay, keep going. The heroin addiction.
Yes. Eventually he slimmed out. I mean, the pictures that you have seen of him, he's the bone structure, he's not a large guy. I wonder if maybe he felt that when he lost the weight, he should have gotten a girlfriend. A little bit of entitlement there about, well, I'm not a big guy anymore. You should be attracted to me. Also, are you familiar with Elliot Rodger?
No, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
2019 Isla Vista killings in Santa Barbara.
No. Tell me.
Okay, I will tell you. 2019, there was an individual. His name is Elliot Rodger. In the incel community, he is referred to as the Supreme Gentleman. Elliot Rodger, high-functioning autistic man who had been radicalized in the incel community. he targeted sororities. So he also recorded a bunch of videos of himself, which Brian Koberger took a lot of selfies, a lot of pictures of himself. Elliot Rodger had that entitlement. He came from a fairly wealthy family. There's actually one video where he puts on some like Versace sunglasses and he says, "Look at me. I look good. You should be attracted to me because I can afford nice things." And so there was really that social deficit of understanding what it takes to have a relationship with another person. And Elliot Rodger was so distraught by the fact that he could not find a girlfriend that he murdered multiple sorority members and went on essentially a shooting rampage before killing himself. With all 4 of the King House girls being sorority members, that is a little bit of a hard connection to look away from.
Was there any like search history or something that he was like following this guy, or?
I have not seen, I did not have any documents that included his search history, so I am not sure.
All right. And I saw that his IQ is 119.
Yes.
Is that high or low? I'm sorry, I don't know numbers.
So average IQ is 100. So 119 is, he's a smart guy, which we see, right? He's a PhD student in criminology. He has excellent academic history. He's a smart guy. He enjoys research. He's a smart guy when it comes to academics. I want to clarify there. He can retain information well.
Okay. Interesting.
He conducted quite a bit of research for his criminology programs when he was, I think it was when he was getting his master's, maybe it was his bachelor's at DeSales University. This is that survey that you might see around the internet where he sent it to criminals, incarcerated individuals who had committed crimes, and he was asking questions. How did you feel about the crime when you were committing it? And trying to look at the cognitive processes of someone who is engaging in criminal behavior.
And he got permission, I think I remember hearing from the university to do this.
Yes, the university's IRB approved this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I also want to mention hindsight bias, right? Because now that the crime has been committed, it's easy for us to look back at things that have happened and say, oh, well, yeah, of course he did that. That makes sense, right? Whereas in the moment, they could not have imagined that him doing this research could potentially be connected to him committing an act of violence. So it's hindsight bias it's hard.
It's behavior, bitches.
Okay, wait. I'm like really excited about this one. We are starting the Behavior Bitches book club. It's about time. I mean, we need this, and we have the best book to start, and you could be a part of it. Our first virtual meetup will be on March 18th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be having Dr. Maya Shankar there with us, the author of the book that we chose, The Other Side of Change. This book is an incredible read. I have read it, and if you have not listened to the podcast with Dr. Maya, you better head over and listen to that now as well. This book talks about when we in life have changes that we would never have asked for or planned for, and how we come out on the other side, and how do we come out even better. So This is a book that's great for the year. It will be the motivation you need. It's just, there's solid, real stories in there. As you know, we like to keep it real, raw, and relatable. This book is definitely that. You can join this book club by grabbing yourself a copy of the book. We'll link that in the notes under the video, as well as using the link to join the virtual book club. Can't wait to see you there. It's going to be fun. Dress cozy. Can you take me on Kohberger's pathway? I know you speak about that here and about
Yes.
like what are we seeing here? We'll definitely share these slides with anyone watching this episode on YouTube. But take me
Yes.
through it.
So I want to say first that this pathway, this is something that is specific to BTAM, Behavioral Threat Assessment and Management. We talk about this pathway to violence. So with BTAM, this looks at targeted violence. Okay, so school shootings, domestic violence, anything that involves a specific victim. Okay. So the pathway to violence has 5 stages. The first stage is grievance. Someone must experience something. They have a complaint, right? Maybe someone got fired from their job and they feel they were wrongfully terminated and now they're upset. Okay. We look at Bryan Kohberger, his grievance. He's an incel. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He wants one. It's unfair. He feels worthless, and it's not justified. Okay. So that's his potential grievance. The next stage is ideation. So someone with a grievance now starts to think that maybe violence is the answer to my problem. Okay, maybe, I've tried talking to HR, I've tried going through all of the channels I'm supposed to, and nothing changes. So you know what? Maybe I need to commit an act of violence. This is ideation. So with Kohberger, he might start thinking about, this is unfair. I need to do something to get back at these people. A lot of times it's vengeance is the driving force. The next stage is research and planning. So they've decided that violence is the answer, and now they're going to look into how to do it. Okay? So they might start looking into bomb making, or maybe they are starting to try to, look around and see where are their cameras, where are they not, where are the blind spots. They might start looking into automatic weapons or how to create weapons. Okay. Stalking is another piece of this, which Kohberger engaged in starting in June.
Did they see that he was at all like showing up at the university?
Not at the university, but at the house.
Okay.
At their house. Since between June of 2022 and when the attack occurred, his phone pinged. Some reports say 12, some say up to 23 times. He did not know these people, so why is he outside of their house 23 times, right? So he's stalking. He is identifying a victim. He's determining their schedules. A lot of times, victims will be monitored by the perpetrator for a length of time before the attack is committed, so they can see when are they alone, what time do they come home from work, and they learn the person's lifestyle patterns to determine when they would be most vulnerable. So the next stage is preparation. They have looked up bomb making and they have decided that they are going to make the bomb, and they have ordered all of the materials and they are starting to assemble. So this is where he started looking for the Ka-Bar knife. There were search warrants for both eBay and Amazon, both of which were regarding the Ka-Bar. So this is that preparation stage. He is committed to engaging in violence, and he is starting the process. After preparation, we have probing and breaching. So this we're going to start to see approach behavior. Okay, so the perpetrator is going to approach the victim, try to get closer, try to see how close can I get. Breaching. So the idea that Kohberger may have entered the home prior. King House was known as a party house. Oftentimes it was left unlocked. There's body cam footage from police visits, just for noise complaints. It's a college party house. They show up for noise complaints. There's one video specifically where the cop asks the person who answers the door to go get one of the residents, someone who actually lives there. And he comes back and says, none of them are at home. So there's this massive party happening in this house where none of the owners are. So it's possible that he may have entered the house previously, prior to the attack.
Oh, creepy.
Yes. And then the final stage is the attack.
And this happens over like months, like you said. I mean,
It's different for everyone. So it's possible that someone has a grievance and it takes them years to do anything about it. It's also possible that someone has a grievance and they go through all these stages in a week. It's possible. There's also an aggravating factor that happened here. So his initial grievance was likely, I can't get a girlfriend. However, because of his creepy behavior with his students, he was fired from his TA position and he lost his grad school funding. I'm sure many of our viewers have been grad students at some point, and they know that loss of grad school funding is terrible. It's not good.
right.
So it's possible that when that happened in late October, early November, that sped up his process, that pissed him off just enough to say, I'm doing it tomorrow.
Wow. Okay. Can we put some of his behaviors into our 3-term contingencies we talk about in behavior?
Yes.
The antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence.
Yes. I have 4 behaviors. Harassment, stalking, burglary, and murder. The reason for this is because he was charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary because he broke into the house. Burglary was also Kohberger's special interest. He studied that extensively in his criminology studies. So we could start with harassment. So same 3-term contingency as I did for Dahmer. Antecedent, we look at the SD, right? A female student. So he can't harass anyone unless there's someone present, right? And it's only female students. Male students were left alone. The establishing operation, state of social or romantic deprivation. Again, this is that incel state. And the response effort is fairly low. The same amount of effort that it takes me to talk to you. Behavior, I have some quotes here. These are quotes from his professors specifically. So one that he used his authority as a TA to inappropriately interact with female students. One of his professors had stated, we need to do an intervention. He's offended many of our female students. And I believe that their intervention was simply to fire him. That was their solution that they came across.
So
This
that's
was
that's clear that he's obviously harassing.
Yes, yes. Many people had seen this and were concerned. There had been many complaints from female students. Yes. Social positive reinforcement, he was getting to access female attention that way. However, this was punished, right? Because he was fired. Variable ratio of reinforcement. Some females, they were nice and they talked to him and they, fed into the conversation. Other females were very put off and they avoided him. So it was variable. And then the function there is attention. He wanted attention from females that he found attractive.
All right. Beautifully put. Now let's look at the next behavior. Stalking.
Stalking. So his SD, he must have an identified victim. So in order to stalk someone, you have to have identified someone to stalk, right? The establishing operation is rejection or seeking vengeance, right?
Which then creates an EO, making it more valuable.
Exactly. The response effort, though, is moderate. Stalking, it's not as easy as just talking to someone. You have to follow them. You have to maintain your cover to make sure that they don't see that you are following them. Okay. Stalking does not occur just once. It is a behavior that occurs repeatedly over time. Typically, it escalates. Stalking.
Weird hours. It's more effort. You like
yes.
available weird hours, like
exactly. Yes.
And it's kind of like if you're like I always think if you're like you watch like National Geographic. If you ever like read about the actual photographers, or like, do you know how many hours it was to get that one scene of the lion mating?
Yes. Yes.
So it's like you're doing a lot of waiting around
for 14 hours. Yeah, exactly. Again, his phone was pinged near the house 12 to 23 times in just a couple of months, which shows that he was stalking. Consequence, automatic positive. He is not making contact with the victims, therefore he is not obtaining any sort of attention or tangible. The goal of stalking is to gain information for a future act, okay? Because stalking always escalates. It doesn't just stop at stalking. We know as behaviorists about habituation, right? That a behavior, as we consistently engage in it, we might kind of become used to that level of reinforcement. So we need a higher level of reinforcement. What can happen here? Fixed ratio schedule.
Wait, interesting. I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, the test prep nerd of me. So habituation, we're typically talking about it with respondent behaviors. So you're saying like that increased heart rate or whatever it is. So like then you're upping the ante.
Yes, because stalking is maintained by automatic positive reinforcement. So they are getting excitement out of it. Eventually, that's not going to be enough. And they're going to have to maybe enter the home instead of just observe from outside. Eventually, just watching that person is not going to be good enough anymore. Now they're going to have to rape them. Okay. Stalking typically escalates to sexual assault and or murder. So it's an escalation of behavior that we see pretty frequently.
Ooh, creepy. All right.
Yes.
Burglary.
Yes. So stalking, if anyone is stalking anyone, take that very seriously. Okay. If you have a stalker, if someone you know is experiencing creeps, make that known to someone because that escalates.
And I've read that you should change up your routine.
Yes. Do not
become predictable.
Yes. Again, because stalking, right, is a way to gain information about the person. What is their typical way home from work? Maybe they go on a jog every morning. People who exercise tend to run the same exact path. Don't do that. Change up your routine, make it unpredictable, make sure people know where you are, things like that.
So I crave structure. I never have 2 days the same, but I guess it's actually a blessing.
There you go.
All right. So burglary.
Burglary. So the SD for burglary is a valuable target. So some people, they might break into homes to steal things of monetary value, right? In Koberger's case,
Or like jewelry at the Louvre,
Yes. Or jewelry at the Louvre. Yes. Yes. Which I don't know if you heard, but their like security password was like Louvre 1.
I heard.
It was just not secure whatsoever. So be unpredictable, but also secure your passwords. But yes, there's some item of value inside, whether it's jewelry, whether it's PS5, whether it's a person that you want access to, right? So for him, his establishing operation was the desire to access those potential victims. He broke into the home not with the intent of stealing things, but with the intent of harming people.
So I have a question. It might sound dumb. As someone who's like just not so sexually driven, and we know sex is an unconditioned reinforcer.
Mhm.
Is deprivation of sex? I mean, obviously, yes, here, but like a common thing that could drive people to do crazy shit.
Yes. Yes.
So, like,
Additionally, automatic reinforcement in the form of sexual stimulation is like possibly the hardest behavior to treat. Because sexual stimulation is one of the strongest unconditioned reinforcers. That's why sexual disorders, disorders of sexual behavior, are so hard to treat because
or like,
that
like,
behavior
or
is
like
so reinforcing.
compulsive behaviors of like masturbation and stuff. It's like good luck
Exactly.
competing with that.
Exactly, because there is nothing more reinforcing than sexual satisfaction.
What do you mean? You
Nothing.
can't just give them a pack of Skittles? I'm kidding.
Yeah. So, sexual behavior is particularly difficult because of the magnitude of the reinforcer.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I've worked with clients before who do a lot of like touching of themselves, and it's like,
Yep.
what am I going to give them that is equivalent to this? Like
Nothing.
a weighted
Keep your
vest?
hands busy
A
with
weighted
something else.
vest?
Yeah.
A video
Yeah.
game to play? So it's DRI? Like they can't, it's like,
Right.
no. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So burglary says has a moderate response effort.
Yes. Again, because you have to be careful, right? You have to be quiet. You have to make sure that you are not seen. You have to, identify, a proper entrance point. You have to figure out how you're going to get out without being noticed. There's a lot happening there.
Right.
So, and that looks like entering the home without permission. Again, he extensively studied burglary, and so he probably knew how to do it. Reinforcement was automatic positive. Social positive. I'm sorry.
There has to be some automatic something there as well. I was thinking like the
Yes.
rush of like, cause like, like I
Exactly.
remember like years ago, Winona Ryder. Do you remember her?
Winona Ryder, yes.
Like celebrity,
For
had lots of money.
shoplifting.
She was caught like what was it?
She like
Shoplifting,
stole
like
mascara or
legit, like
something.
yeah, like dumb shit that she could easily afford.
Yeah.
And
the
it was
rush.
like that was like pure proof that like there's some rush there or like automatic function.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that was
Yes.
there too.
Yes. I'm sure it gave him a sense of accomplishment, a sense of power. that, oh, I entered this person's home without them knowing. Look how great I am.
Or it could be like
Look how smart
tangible.
I am.
If they take anything, it could be tangible as well.
Yep. Many people will burglarize with the intent of just stealing things. In that term, it would be tangible, maintained.
But he didn't take anything, did he?
He took nothing. He took nothing. He didn't even make it look like a robbery. He took nothing. But I also think that
Just their
speaks
lives.
to his level of unpreparedness, maybe, that he thought it was going to be easier than it actually was.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the burglary allowed him access to his victims. Schedule, I say fixed ratio. As far as we know, this has only occurred once. This behavior has only occurred once, and it was reinforced once. So now it's a fixed ratio. But
Right. Because he's done it once and it happened. So it's essentially,
a continuous.
continuous schedule, FR1.
Yeah. And then the function, attention/tangible. Similar to when I talked about Dahmer, I have both attention and tangible here because he wanted access to people, not items. Therefore, attention. However, he did not view them as people. They were objects to him at that point, which we can also call it tangible if we speak from.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
like, to them, they're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he's like trying to like get interactions from them to like hang out.
No.
All right. Now, obviously, the last behavior of murder.
Yes. So SD, he has an identified victim. He is in the home, in the presence of his desired victims. The establishing operation, an internal deprivative state or a sense of injustice. So here, because of that incel ideology, he had a lot of anger, this sense of injustice, this entitlement. And so he was going to punish his victims for not attending to him, essentially. The response effort is moderate. You could argue high.
I was going to say high. Like
with the fact that he had 4 victims. I don't think he was intending on having 4 victims, but he did, and so with the level of struggle that was involved, he had to put in quite a bit of effort. Some of the victims, Ethan, I believe, may have been sleeping and or passed out. They had all been drinking, which is why he was face down on the bed. However, Dylan reported that she had heard Kaylee playing with Murphy shortly before the attack, and Xana had just gotten DoorDash at 4. So at least a few of them were awake. It is much harder to murder someone who is awake than someone who's asleep, because they will fight back. So there was extensive effort involved here. Automatic positive reinforcement. So this was his solution to that indignance, essentially. He solved this problem. Take that. That type of thing. So the murders gave him a sense of power, or that he has righted a wrong.
I'm thinking, and tell me what you think here, I don't know. Could it also be argued as well, not saying that one is wrong, of the potential of negative reinforcement? Like these people who are like these popular, like aversive sorority, like whatever, like they have everything I could ever want. They're hot. They have people they hook up with. They have a social life. And it's like, remove them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like negative reinforcement. And
yeah, I have in my function, Um, I have sensory because of that sense of power, but I also have potential for escape because by killing these people, he now takes away what they represented, which was beauty and youth and relationships and all of the things that he did not have. Now he was able to remove that.
It's behavior, bitches.
Are you a BCBA now and you are sad because you hate your job? Are you thinking, I worked so effing hard and here I am, dreading Monday? Well, you're not the only one. We get that message all the time and we decided to do something about it. Welcome our newest baby, Pair ABA by Study Notes ABA. What is this? Well, we pair you with jobs that you actually don't hate. Imagine that. Imagine going to work on Monday and being excited about it. Imagine working somewhere where you're appreciated, you're paid well, they're doing ethical practice, and you love what you do. Well, that's not impossible because we have formed Pair ABA, where we talk to clinics that we would actually want to work at. We're not going to send you anywhere. We are assessing these clinics to see, are they doing the good work? Are they not telling you one thing and then having you do another thing once you sign on? If you're concerned that you're not happy or you're feeling unsettled where you are, don't settle. Don't settle in relationships. Don't settle in work. Realize your value. Let us help you find a job where you are happy. All you need to do is head on over to pairaba.com. The response effort is low. Fill out the form so we could help you find job options near you. If you're a clinic and you think you're good enough for us to place at, also head over to pairaba.com. And we will see, are you good enough for our badass BCBAs who we protect? Go check it out, pairaba.com. Love you, mean it. As of today, where does the case stand?
Brian Koberger, the court documents have just been so interesting because they tried everything to get the charges dropped. He was facing the death penalty. They tried everything to get the death penalty thrown out. In fact, I have documents right here where they tried to use autism spectrum disorder as an excuse for why he cannot legally be put to death. I don't know how much you know about the death penalty, but the Eighth Amendment of the United States protects against cruel and unusual punishment. There have been legal precedents for people with intellectual disability, Down syndrome, cognitive delay, things like that, where we have identified that it is inhumane, it is cruel and unusual to put intellectually disabled people to death. He tried to argue that autism spectrum disorder was equivalent to an intellectual disability, and it should preclude him from being put to death. The guy has an IQ of 119 and is a PhD student. I mean, it was the most absurd argument. There's no argument for this. Finally, when they lost all of those attempts, he changed his plea to guilty, which avoided a jury trial. Everyone wanted this to go to trial. And this is why I don't have access to any of the evidence because we didn't actually have a trial. So all of that stuff is
wait. So when he admitted to being guilty, does that put away the death sentence?
Yes, that was part of his plea agreement, was that he could avoid the death sentence by pleading guilty. So that's what he did. However, no one got a trial. He also has not spoken about what happened. He has not said a word about what happened. In fact, many of the documents state that he was convinced that he would be found innocent, that this would go to trial and a jury would find him not guilty. He was convinced. So he has not said a word. He changed his plea to guilty, and that is that. He is in prison. life sentence. He's not having a good time. People are tormenting him. In fact, I have read quite a few other documents of his complaints from within prison where he's asking to be moved to different units because people are there was one instance where he said that an inmate who perhaps maybe shares a wall of a cell was smearing feces on the vent, which then would blow into his unit and smell like feces. Yep, he has filed multiple complaints regarding sexual harassment, and has reported that many inmates have made comments about raping him. He's not having a good time. Yeah, all of these complaints are the prison employees say, like, we talked about this already. We're not moving you. You don't get accommodations. You're staying where you are. So he still has that entitlement. That has not gone anywhere.
It's like in prisons, like the child molesters are never treated well.
Exactly.
The prisoners themselves will take care of that.
Yes. Yes. And that is a bit of what is happening. There was no sexual element to his crime. No one was.
But I think what I watch a lot of prison stuff, and it seems like you're like in prison, the system kind of seems like you're either a legit criminal or you're like a weak criminal. Like you're going after
Yes.
these like girls who are whatever it is. Like
Exactly.
it's different if you're fighting for your gang territory to someone else for their gang territory, fair game.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it seems like. I'm not saying that this is right, but
Absolutely.
I'm saying that's what the
That's the culture in prison.
right.
Yes. Yeah. He is not fitting in.
Like fight someone your
Um,
own size.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, he's having a hard time. He didn't have friends outside of prison, though, so it doesn't surprise me that he doesn't have any inside either.
Right. So just closing this out, this episode. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you, and I'm also thinking myself, like just from a behavioral perspective, what do we think for someone like this? Obviously, when anything's hidden, we don't know, right? But let's say we know this person has horrible social skills, is dying to get laid, hasn't got laid, right? Has a lot of sexual frustration. What is something that, like, just understanding this, that you think could have been done to intervene, of like our understanding of, behavior?
Mm-hmm. So I think with Koberger specifically, there were some opportunities. He was in rehab. Okay. Some of these things, narcissistic tendencies, social isolation, okay, these should have been identified if he was in a clinical setting. Okay. Now, you can identify things, but what do you do about it? Right. There are different interventions for perpetrators. We also have interventions for victims. One of them is target hardening. Okay, so make that victim more difficult to access. Okay, we have some very basic environmental modifications that we can do. We know that crime occurs in the darkness. Okay, so studies have shown that simply putting in more street lights in like dark alleys, things like that, decreases criminal behavior. We can do these things.
These are like some like simple environmental manipulation.
Yes. Cameras, have them very obviously there. Make it obvious that you will be seen. Simple things like locking your door. That slows down a criminal enough to maybe go to a different house. A lot of criminals, they'll go around and they'll test doors.
Yeah, I get things on like my neighborhood alert, like someone's trying to open car doors.
Yep. Yeah, they'll go around trying to open doors until they find one that is open, and then they'll take all your stuff. So simply hardening the target by doing some of these basic environmental things is going to help too. As far as the perpetrator goes, he's the supervision, but it's this difficult area, right? Because we cannot treat or intervene before something happens.
Right.
Right?
I'm more talking, which obviously like would be if this person had like come to someone being like, listen, all I want is a girlfriend. All I want is for someone to like talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sexually frustrated, right? Then I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like obviously before this, who's to know?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like I'm just thinking from like a pragmatic perspective. It's like, okay, do we send someone like this to Amsterdam?
I was just going to say one of the solutions that I have heard is legalizing sex work. Make it easier for people to access sex workers without the shame and the stigma of it being a crime. If we can allow for appropriate sexual outlets, we might not experience some of these things. Obviously, social skills training is going to be important. Parents should have identified a long time ago that their son doesn't have any friends. And they should have maybe done something about that. Hindsight is 2020.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me back. I was so excited.
It's always like interesting to talk about these things, and obviously with this, with all the respect to the families who have lost their children or any like I'm even thinking of like the individuals in the house who were alive, like their life is forever changed.
Oh,
Like the
I think about
university
Hunter
can't feel the
Johnson.
same. Like
Yep. I think about Hunter Johnson. Like he had to walk in and see that. Yeah.
I mean,
the entire community.
wow. Well, thank you again for coming on. I'm sure we'll have. I mean, please God, there's no more crimes that we need to be talking about.
Right.
If the world like fixes itself tomorrow, and maybe we could talk about something else next time. I don't know, but thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, anytime.
So, where can anyone who wants to reach out to you, if you want people reaching out to you, where can they find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. That's kind of my main place. You can find me. I have my email and all of that on there, so you can find me there.
We'll put it in the show notes if you're cool with that.
Yes, perfect. I want to do a little shameless plug here. So I am the current chair for the Forensic Behavior Analysis Special Interest Group through ABII. I do that with my fantastic colleagues, Dr. Tim Templin and Cody Lai. And we have also formed something called the Crime and Behavior Analysis Academy. So you can also go to www.crimeandbehavior.com and you'll find trainings. We have merch. We have a chat. My contact info is on there as well.
Amazing. We'll put that in the show notes as well. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of interest.
Oh,
I feel
fantastic.
like a behavior analyst and crime. Yeah, it's a popular.
Yes, and
combo.
Thankfully with BTAM now, our fields are kind of crossing a little bit more.
That's good, because we need that. We need to get our what
Yes.
we do out there beyond just the autism space. So amazing.
Yes,
Thanks
we
for your
do.
work. All right, guys. With that, you know where you could find us. You could find us on behaviorbitches.com. If you want to tell us a topic that we should be talking about, if you are the cool guest or if you know someone cool, please reach out. We have a contact form there. I'm going to say this on the show now. I am looking for someone to come co-host with me sometimes here in the office in Dallas. So if you're someone local and you think we'd have good banter, I would love to have another bitch in the chair right here so that we could do cool interviews. So if that's you, you could also reach out on the Behavior Bitches website. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Behavior Bitches Podcast. Please go subscribe on YouTube. We really are trying to build a presence there. Share with your friends and go leave a 5-star review wherever you leave reviews. We really look at all of it and read it, and it keeps me going. So that's all for today. As always, love ya. Mean it.
It's behavior, bitches.